but still you're searching for someone who understands the pain you've been through. Where the Spirit waits with open arms, it's calling out your name. Come on in, welcome home. You are loved and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in. Come on in. You'll find a place of rest in the arms of Spirit. It's waited so long for your homecoming day. It knows the peace you need and the hurt you're feeling. We want to hold you and to wipe your tears away. Where the doors unlocked, the lights are on. What are you waiting for? Come on in, welcome home. You're in love and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in. There is room enough in the home of love for someone just like you. Come on in, welcome home. You are loved and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in, welcome home. You are loved and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in. Come on in. Come on in, welcome home. You are loved and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in. 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 Come on in.
Thank you for this day.
Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day. Spirit, thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. Thank you for my friends. Spirit, thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends. Spirit, thank you for my friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. Thank you for my health. Spirit, thank you for my health. Thank you for my health. Spirit, thank you for my health. My radiant, my radiant, my radiant health. My radiant, my radiant, my radiant health. Thank you for my life. Spirit, thank you for my life. Thank you for my life. Spirit, thank you for my life. My glorious, my glorious, my glorious life. My glorious, my glorious, my glorious life.
If you would like, in person, to bring your drum next week, that would be fun.
Welcome to Unity of Wilmington's hybrid service. I'm Vicki Hayes, and I'm happy to be here along with the celebration singers, our music director, Katie Deese, our soloist, Megan Golden, and delivering the lesson, Reverend Nikki Golden. I am so happy to be a part of this spiritual community, expanding consciousness and inspiring personal transformation. We all know these three affirmations to be truth with a capital T. You are a beloved expression of God. You are here for a holy purpose, and whether you're here online right now or later or right here in this room, we are connected. And And you're always at the right place at the right time right now.
I'm walking uphill, both ways it hurts. I bury my heart here in this dirt. I hope it's a seed, I hope it works. I need to grow, here I could be closer to light, closer to me. Don't have to do this perfectly. Rain it pours, rain it pours. It's pouring on me, the rain it falls, rain it falls. Sowing the seeds of love and hope, love and hope. We don't have to stay stuck in the way. Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? Oh, have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? I'm walking uphill, both ways it hurts. I bury my heart here in this dirt. I hope it's a seed, I hope it works. I need to grow, here I could be closer to light, closer to me. We don't have to do this perfectly. Rain it pours, rain it pours. It's pouring on me, the rain it falls, rain it falls. Sowing the seeds of love and hope, love and hope. We don't have to stay stuck in the way. Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? Oh, have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? Oh, have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today?
Who are not in the room, she is getting a standing ovation. Thank you for your presence with us. And if you have the answer to the question, have I the courage to change? Yell it out now. And what is it? Yes! Yes, you do. And why do you have the courage to change? You have the courage to change because you are here. That's step one. You are here. And you are making a very clear statement that you got yourself from wherever you were to here. And you are in the process of change because that very action from where you were to here is change. Take a deep breath. Change scares people sometimes. Just take a deep breath. I'm in the midst of changing. We are always in the midst of changing. We are always in the expression of change. Only it has become so familiar to us most of the time that we don't even notice that we're changing. Then something happens, and that something happens is bigger than our everydayness. It's bigger than our lack of familiar, or it's unfamiliar. It's bigger than what we're used to being around, being familiar with. And we're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to change. We can take a breath and simply remember we've been changing every single day of our lives. Our bodies, the cells in our bodies change fully and completely every 7 years. We're changing every day of our lives. It's actually something to celebrate. And it can be scary. I fully understand that. So I'm not trying to imply that there's something wrong if you're scared up against change. I have those moments myself. And the hardest part of change is usually that very first step, doing something different than you've done before. And that might be having a different thought. It might be catching that thought that says, I'm not good enough. It might be catching whatever that central repeating thought is for you that holds you back from living your life fully, from recognizing that within you already is the courage to take the risk, to take the step, to make the change. And I know it's within all of us because the Bible teaches from the psalmist wrote this, wait for the Lord, be strong and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. So the Lord metaphysically is the I am. So we're waiting for that inner impulse from our innermost beingness to take the step, to have the impulse. And we're listening from our heart. Strength, metaphysically, is the freedom of God. It's that capacity that's already within us. And you can call God whatever name you want to call it, but it's that capacity that's already within us telling us that we have whatever it takes to accomplish whatever our dream is. And it's fascinating. Think for a moment about some of the risks that you have taken across your life. We moved from Hawaii to Connecticut. That was a big risk. We moved from Connecticut to here. So any move you've made is a risk. Even if you move across town, we moved from Mayfair to back behind the point. That was a risk. Are we going to like our new house? What's it going to be like? And what happens if we don't? Are we willing to take the risk to do something different if we don't like what the outcome is? And so often, instead of doing something different, we judge ourselves. So would we have the courage to drop judgment and listen fully to the I am? Wait on the Lord. Wait on the I am. Wait on the impulse. Do we have that capacity, that desire? Because it takes discipline and patience. It takes discipline and it takes patience. And we have that. And sometimes we just simply have to slow ourselves down. But there are other times in our lives where we have to sort of speed ourselves up to get moving because we feel like we're stuck, rooted in the ground. Not grounded, but rooted. Like, oh my goodness, I can't pick up my foot. And so we have to know the difference, be in discernment about what is rootedness and what is that inner impulse. So we have to have the practice that allows us to listen, to wait upon the Lord, to feel into what we most desire with our hearts. There's a story in the Hebrew Scriptures that comes from the book of Esther. Esther is a woman who's a Jewish woman, and she lost her parents early, so her cousin Mordecai began to take care of her, brought her to where he lived in Persia, and began to take care of her. And she grew, and she knew people, and she grew into this beautiful young woman. And the king at the time, Xerxes, got really mad at his wife and sort of dismissed her. Sometimes that happens. And he held this beauty pageant. It sounds funny, but the Bible is a story of who we are and who we are becoming. And sometimes we dismiss people, and sometimes we get divorces, and sometimes we win beauty pageants. You never know. So in this case, there was a beauty pageant. Kind of reads like a romance, but that's all right because there is romantic literature in the Bible. Sometimes we forget how varied the Bible is, but she wins the beauty contest. So Esther gets to be the wife of the king. The second wife, who knows, maybe the third or fourth. The story doesn't actually tell that, but it could be, because in that time, the kings had many, many wives. And so she gets to be the wife. And so because she was the wife of the king, her cousin now gets promoted, nepotism, gets promoted from being a minor player in the king's court to a major player in the king's court. And as he's in his new role and feeling like he's got more power, which he did, and more information, which he did, he discovers that the king's chancellor, whose name is Haman, has developed a plot to kill all of the Jews and has built gallows to hang them with. So all of this is going on. Now, does this sound like a soap opera to you? I mean, this is part of our consciousness. So Esther goes before the king and makes a request to have an audience with the king. Now, even though she is his wife, if he denies her that audience, which it's very, very rare in those times for women to have gone before the king and made that request to have an audience. If he denies her that audience, she will be beheaded. That's the law. And so she takes a huge risk, because what Mordecai found out is that Haman is trying to kill all of the Jews of Persia. And Mordecai knows he's Jewish. Esther knows she's Jewish, but the king does not know Esther is Jewish. Because remember, he held a beauty pageant. And he just made an assumption that everybody who came forward in the beauty pageant was Persian descent. And so she goes before the king, and she asks for this audience, and he touches her with a golden scepter, which is the way the king of that time said, yes, you can have an audience with me. And when he touches her, he says, I will grant you anything, including half of my kingdom, if that's what your desire is. And she looks at him and she said, Your Majesty, or whatever you would say to a king in that time, what I really want, and the only thing I want from the bottom of my heart, is I want you and Haman to come to a banquet that I'm going to throw tomorrow. Would you just please come? I would be so honored if you would come to the banquet. He says, well, of course. Can you imagine his relief that he doesn't have to give away half of his kingdom? I mean, that was where my mind went. And then the other piece is, wow, she did it. She took the risk. She had the courage to take the risk for her people, because she did not want her people to have been destroyed. And part of the backstory of this is that days before, Mordecai had said to her, you have to do this for your people. And she said, then you gather the men and I will gather the women. And ask them to pray. So we have everyone praying for deliverance. And the second step, she said, and everyone must fast for 3 days. Remember, 3 is a number of completion. So everyone must fast for 3 days. And they did. They had the courage to pray, to fast, and to hold that vision that they would not be destroyed. And I would imagine they knew exactly what could happen to Esther. So I'm having the thought, too, that they were holding the vision for her to be successful in her meeting with the king, in making the request and then being able to have that audience. So imagine the celebration that they had when it came forth that there would be a banquet and that Esther had gotten her audience with the king. So the next night, this lavish banquet is happening. And Esther comes in and she's working and talking and she's being with her husband. She's being with Haman and she's being, can you imagine, kind and polite. And she's thinking, and at these banquets, there's lots of wine. So she gets her king kind of in his cups. You know what I mean? And she says, oh, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you that I'm Jewish. So she tells him, and he receives it in that moment, that she's Jewish. And he's thinking, and she said, and I need to tell you that Haman has a plot to kill all of the Jews. And the king makes the connection at that point and says, well, he will not do that. He will die instead. And so the king calls forth all of his men to take Haman out of the banquet and to put him to death in the gallows that he had actually built for Mordecai. Kind of reeks of karma, doesn't it? In a way. What we send out, we receive back. The law of giving and receiving. And so Esther, having the courage to work to save her people, was able not only to save her people, but saved her relationship at the same time. And the people lived on, and what they celebrated is a Jewish festival called Purim. It means lots, because Haman had actually cast lots to determine the date of the death of the Jews. That's how disconnected he was from his own self, and how angry he was at some level of people, a group of people who were different from him. Now, we have to remember that the Bible is a story of us. How are we like Haman? Who are we willing to dismiss? How are we like Esther? Where do we stand in our courage and find it and invite ourselves into prayer, into waiting for the Lord, as the psalmist would say? And then wait the 3 days. Wait till completion. Maybe we're fasting from our negative thinking. Maybe we're fasting from our hurtful thoughts and our hurtful feelings toward others, our judgments, our criticisms, whatever we're fasting from. It's probably going to be unique to each of us, but it helps us to have the courage and then the willingness to stand up in the face of knowing that she could die and say, I need to tell you that I'm Jewish. And he received that. So what about yourself are you afraid to tell somebody? Because you're afraid that they will not receive it. That they will not hold open arms and say, I love you, no matter what. And the one place that we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we can receive that is with principle. Principle, God, the divine, loves for the sake of loving. Loves us in what is seen as our wholeness. And as we come into seeing that wholeness within us, as we come into standing fully in who we were creating to be, to live from our heart with the strength that's already within us, we can step forth in courage to live lives that are full of beauty. I want to give you Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity's definition of courage: a spiritual quality that enables one to remain poised and centered in God amidst greatest difficulties and dangers. To be poised, to be centered in God no matter what's going on around us. That's who we're called to be. And it's not easy. It's not easy. I have my days where I feel like I'm picking myself up off the floor, using principle, inviting my friends to remind me of who I am when I can't remember, which I love spiritual community for this very reason. And then stepping forward to live the dream, to remain poised and centered in the midst of difficulty. We have that capacity within us already. And it takes 3 basic things to identify our deepest fears. What are your deepest fears? Most of us fear judgment of others. Some of us fear that we're just not good enough, and that no matter what we do, we'll never be good enough. But those fears are unique to each of us. And I want to tell you another story. There was a young man who went to see his teacher, who was a martial arts teacher. And he'd been studying a little bit with this teacher. So he goes to this teacher and he says, "Teacher, please teach me how to not be cowardly, how to not be fearful." And the teacher takes a few minutes and he's thinking, and he says, "If you do this one thing for me first, then I will teach you." And the young man says, "Well, what is that one thing?" And the teacher says, "I want you to go to the city, and I want you to spend a month in the city, and everyone you meet, I want you to say to them, 'I'm a coward.'" And the young man gets really sad. I mean, really sad, like, "I have to go tell everyone I meet that I'm a coward?" And the teacher said, "Yes, if you'll do that one thing for me for 1 month, then I will teach you. I will teach you how to stand and live in courage, to be brave. And the young man takes a few days and he spends the time in the sadness, and he's afraid. He's afraid that he's going to spend his life as a coward, because this task of walking up to another person and saying, especially somebody he doesn't know, but I think it'd be harder for me to do it with somebody I know, honestly, but to walk up to every person he meets and say, I'm a coward. So imagine walking down the streets of New York City or Raleigh or whatever big city you would imagine saying, I'm a coward, I'm a coward. Hi, I'm a coward. Hello, I am a coward. But after a few days of the sadness, his desire to find his courage, his inner courage, is bigger than his fear. So he travels to the city, and it takes him a couple of days to get started. It would take me a while to get started too. But finally, one day, he walks up to this person, and he's about to say, I'm a coward, and he cannot get the words out of his mouth. He just cannot get the words out of his mouth. So he goes to someone else, and he goes to someone else, and he goes to someone else. And it took him a few days, and finally, one day, he walked up to somebody, and they're passing him by, and he said, I'm a coward. And they just kept on going. And he walked up to somebody else and said, I'm a coward. And the earth didn't shatter. It didn't open up. He didn't fall in. They just kept on walking. And he went up to somebody else and said, I'm a coward. And he did this day after day after day after day for the 30 months of that day. And somewhere in the process, he recognized that it wasn't so scary to walk up and say, hey, I'm a coward. And people just kept on walking. And he started to find within him the strength to recognize that he was no longer a coward, because he had found it within him to be able to face his biggest fear, that he was a coward, and to tell other people. So when we are willing to identify our deepest fear and begin to share it with each other, hey, I'm scared of not being liked. I'm scared of you judging me. I'm scared that you don't think I'm good enough. When we're willing to just out those things, they no longer have a grip on us. They're no longer going to hold us back from being who we are, because who cares? Well, I care, and maybe you care, and maybe that's not even your experience, but I'm holding that experience in my mind as if it is. So if I think that's how you feel about me, if I think that's what you think about me, then I'm going to act as if it's true. But when we recognize that in our oneness with each other, that it's a part of all of us. My fear of not being good enough, you have a piece of it. It might only be a mustard seed for you, or it might be a big old giant balloon, hot air balloon, I don't know. Only you know. If I'm afraid that you don't like me, maybe I better look at, do I like me? Do I like me? And where is it that I don't? And what do I need to change? Because if it's in me, it's in all of us. And if it's in you, it's in me. And what a difference we can make if we were really willing to go up to say to somebody and say, I'm afraid you don't like me. And listen and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that whatever their answer is, whether it's yes or no, it's more about them than it is about me. And that's so scary for us sometimes. And why do I know that? Why do I know it's more about them? Because when I don't like somebody, it's more about me than it is about anyone else. Because we are one. And usually, that thing that I don't like about somebody else is actually something that I have not loved about myself. So do you have the courage to love yourself in your wholeness? To even just say, I am whole If you have the courage, go ahead and say it with me right now. I am whole. And then get willing to ask somebody that you think doesn't like you, do you like me? Do you? And I imagine that most often the answer will be yes. Or, I don't even know you well enough to like you or not. I mean, sometimes that happens. Sometimes it happens. I said that to somebody once, and she said, I don't think we've ever had a conversation. How can I like you or not like you? And it was very freeing for me. But it takes a great amount of courage. Do you have that level of courage to stand so fully in your own wholeness that you let anything that's unlike your wholeness simply fall away, or you address it? Be honest about the cost of not taking an action. What's the cost of not taking an action? Lowered self-esteem most often, because when we see ourselves as not having courage, and when we see ourselves as not willing to act on that courage, then what's going to happen is we lower our self-esteem, because we see ourselves as less than whole. So if I see myself as less than whole, I'm going to think everybody else sees me as less than whole also. And then I'm going to try to get you to see me as whole. I'm going to posture. I'm going to do things to try to show you how whole I really am, when what's really going on inside of me in the pit of my stomach is I'm really, really scared. And then if I'm willing to out that, to speak up to that, to speak into that, what most often happens, and it's not 100%, but what most often happens is that part of that other individual that feels the same way about something in their life will also open up. Our hearts open. We wait upon the Lord, and our hearts open. And we find the strength to love deeper, fuller, more. It's amazing when it does. And then to embrace uncertainty, to take that action, calls us to embrace uncertainty, but we do it all the time. We embrace uncertainty all the time because truly we don't know if there's 5 minutes from now, but we live as if we do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you could have some really good fun embracing uncertainty. Go to work a different way. Go to the grocery store a different way. Go to a different grocery store. Buy new food. Try something new. Whatever works for you, but listen from within your heart to know what the next step is for you to embrace uncertainty. The author of 2 Timothy, remember, 2 Timothy was writing to a church. So we don't know what was written to Timothy, but what we know is what Timothy wrote back. So I'm imagining that the churches were really struggling with their own sense of bravery, because if you remember, during the time that Timothy would have been writing, a lot of the churches were being formed. They were called the Way, and they were house churches for the most part. They were collections of people who were coming together, not unlike we're doing right now, only the people were doing it in a smaller venue, coming together to share the stories of the master teacher, the universal teacher, Jesus, to share their stories, to talk about how to live, to talk about how to move forward. They were coming together because they have like minds, much like we do here, of people who are thinking and feeling and living like they're doing, to support each other, much like we're doing here. So Timothy's writing back to that church, and what Timothy says to that church is God did not give us, including himself, God did not give us a cowardly spirit, but a powerful, loving, disciplined spirit. That's what's within us already, a powerful, loving, disciplined spirit. We have that capacity. It was given to us before we were ever born. It was given to us in that moment that we were created as energy in the universe. And remember, Jeremiah says to us, before you were born, I knew you, speaking from God. Before you were born, I knew you. Think about that. You're known before you were born. You were known in every moment. And you continue to be known for this powerful spirit that you are, that happens right now simply to be embodied in skin. And when we step forth with courage, knowing that we have love, we are love, that we will always be loved by the divine, that there is nothing that we can do to stop that love. We can step forth from a different place in consciousness. It takes courage to live like that, but each and every one of us have that in this room, and each and every one of you who are listening in, who are joining us. There is a physical separation, but there is not a separation in our oneness. We all have it, that courage. So if there's something you would like support with, go ahead and put it online, and we'll come back this afternoon and respond to that. If you're interested, if you are open to standing in your strength and your power, I invite you to say this with me. I'll read it first, and then I'm going to invite you to say it with me. I remained poised and centered in God amidst great difficulties and danger. I used my inner strength to accomplish the desires of my heart, and I'm willing to take risk to live a fulfilling life. Take a breath into that. And let's say that together. Together? I remain poised and centered in God amidst great difficulties and danger. I use my inner strength to accomplish the desires of my heart. I am willing to take risks to live a fulfilling life. We are infinite. We are part of the infinite. Therefore, that capacity of infiniteness is within us already. Our job, our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to tap into it from our heart space, to live it as fully as we can, and to love ourselves as much as we can from where we are in this moment. So I'm going to invite us into a time of meditation, tuning into that place in you where you experience your oneness with God. Let yourself feel it. Can you allow it to become a sensation for you? Breathing into it. When we breathe into something, it helps to actually expand it. Breathing into it. I am willing to take a risk. I'm willing to face my deepest fears and take a risk because I know that I might not have the outcome that I expected, but the outcome will lead me to the next desire. If I'm willing to let it be what it is, to not judge it, but simply allow it. Allowing something actually takes active participation from us. Takes our willingness to open to it, to notice the thoughts, the impulses, to push it away, to make it wrong. And then for us to tune in, to wait upon the I am that is within us. Remembering that for each of us, the I am is our wholeness. The I am is our love. The I am is our peace, our inner peace. The I am is our inner strength. The I am is our allness as we stand in it. And as we love, and as we live, and as we know that we have our beingness in God, the divine, the all that is, that we are an eachness in the allness of life, then we know that we can stand in strength and courage, stand in the consciousness of love, because we are standing in the truth of who and what we are. So is there something that you need to share with yourself? Is there something that you need to say to yourself? Is there some loving statement that you need to speak to yourself around? I invite you to do that in this moment. And then breathe into that and let it circulate through all of your body. I am courageous. Say that in your mind. I am courageous. I am whole. I am complete. I have all the capacities of God within me right here and right now. And I live as fully as I can from those capacities, knowing that because I am on this planet in this moment, I have a purpose. I have a dream to be fulfilled. I have a life to live to the fullest. And I have within me the capacities to move through any obstacle that comes my way. And I celebrate myself. So as we come back to this time and this place, celebrate who and what you are. Celebrate your beauty, your strength, your courage. Celebrate your life. And celebrate you.
Don't know much about your life. Don't know much about your world. Don't wanna be alone tonight on this planet they call Earth. You don't know about my past, and I don't have a future figured out. And maybe this is going too fast, and maybe it's not meant to last. But what do you say to taking chances? What do you say to jumping off the edge? Never knowing if there's solid ground below, or a hand to hold, or hell to pay. What do you say? What do you say? I just wanna start again. Maybe you could tell me how to try. Maybe you can let me in somewhere underneath your skin. But what do you say to taking chances? What do you say to jumping off the edge? Never knowing if there's solid ground below, or a hand to hold, or hell to pay. What do you say? What do you say?
What do you say? What do you say? Allow that to come from within. If you have been moved, touched, or inspired by anything you have heard today, if you recognize that this is a spiritual community that is here to support you on your journey in making those choices and taking those chances, we invite you to participate in what we call the law of circulation. the law of giving and receiving and initiating giving and receiving in your own self by donating generously to Unity of Wilmington, whether it be here in person in the basket in the back of the building, online at unitywill.com, or on Venmo. We thank you very much for your support and want you to know how honored we are to be with you on your journey.
What risk will you take? What risk will you take this week? I invite you to take the risk and come back next week and tell us about it. In your excitement, tell us about what happened, and we'll support you or we will celebrate with you. But whatever it is, we'll celebrate the fact that you took the risk. Let yourself have fun doing it. Life is supposed to be fun. Let's really step into that energy and make it so.
What do you say?